This is the question I get more than any other. Ibrahim, how much money do I actually need to start an Airbnb business? And most people asking it already have a number in their head. 5 grand, 10 grand. Some people think they need a deposit for a mortgage. So they're thinking tens of thousands of pounds. And that number is the single biggest reason people never start. Here's the truth. The honest answer is this. It completely depends on which model you choose. And one of those models needs far less than you think. So in this video, I'm going to break down the real cost of starting an Airbnb business over here in the UK. You know, the honest numbers for each route, no sugarcoating, but also no scaremongering. And by the end, you're going to know exactly what it would actually take for you to start. Let's get into this. Now, before I give you the numbers, I want to reframe something, because how much money do I need is actually the wrong first question. The correct first question is, which model am I using? Because the cost is completely different depending on the route you take. Asking how much it costs to start an Airbnb business is like asking how much a car costs. Well, which car? A second-hand runaround or a brand new Range Rover? It's the exact same with this. So let me walk you through the 3 main models and what each one of those really costs. Then you're going to see why the number in your head is probably way too high. Model 1, you buy a property. This is obviously the expensive route, but let me give you the real numbers. The average property in the UK right now costs around £270,000. And to buy one as an investment, you're typically putting down a 25% deposit. 25% of £270,000 is £67,500. And that's just the deposit. On top of that, you've got stamp duty, you've got the legal fees, and then furnishing the whole place. So realistically, to start by buying, you're looking at the best part of £70,000 to £80,000 out of your own pocket before you earn a single penny. So if you've got that sitting around, then great. Most beginners don't. So for most people, this is not going to be the starting point. Now, model 2, arbitrage, also known as rent to rent. So you rent a property on a tenancy agreement and then you let it out on Airbnb instead. Now, this is cheaper than buying, but it's not cheap. Realistically, you're looking at somewhere between £4,000 to £8,000 to get going, depending on which part of the country you're in. And the reason it's a range is because of the rent. So in a higher rent area, your deposit on the property and your first month's upfront rent are obviously both going to be bigger. You know, so your startup cost is at the top of that range. In a cheaper area, it's at the bottom of that range. And then you add furnishing on top of that, plus your setup cost, and £4,000 to £8,000 is the realistic number per property setup. And then there's the hidden cost. And I'm going to come to that in a minute, which is the part that really matters. Model 3, the partnership model. This is the one that I use and that I teach. And here's where it changes everything completely. Because you're not buying and you're not signing a tenancy agreement. The big cost of the other 2 models simply does not exist. There's no £67,500 deposit. There's no mortgage. There's no deposit on a rental property. There's no first month's rent up front because you're not the tenant. What you're left with is your actual cost to set up the business and properly run it. And I'm going to give you those exact numbers in a minute, line by line. But just to set the scene, where buying is tens of thousands of pounds and arbitrage is £4,000 to £8,000, the partnership model gets you started for under £1,000, a completely different conversation. Now, here's the cost almost nobody factors in, and it's actually the most important one: risk. When people ask how much it costs to start, they only think about the money to get going. They never think about the money that they could lose if it goes wrong. With arbitrage, you've signed a tenancy agreement. So your hidden cost is every month of rent that you owe, whether you get bookings or not. A few slow months, and that cheaper to start model has cost you thousands of pounds that you didn't actually plan for. With the partnership model, there's no tenancy agreement, there's no rent liability. So if a month is slow, it's just a slow month. You're not writing a check out of your own pocket to cover rent on the property that you don't own. So when you're working out what a model really costs, don't just ask what it costs to start, ask what it costs if it doesn't go to plan. And that's where the partnership model wins for a complete beginner. The downside is fully protected. So let's get really specific. This is the part you came for. To start the partnership model properly, here are the actual numbers line by line. First of all, you set up your business. So you're going to want to get a limited company. You can do that through Companies House for £100. By the way, this cost applied to regardless of what model you're actually going to use. So next is insurance. You need to be properly covered to run this as a business. So budget around £300 for the year for proper insurances. Then you need to be registered with a property redress scheme. That's around £300 a year. And then the data protection, personal information. So you register with the ICO. That one's just £40 for the year. So you add up the core setup and the compliance. Company set up around £100, insurance around £300, redress scheme 300, ICO 40. That's roughly £740 to be fully, properly set up to be running this business. And here's the beauty of it. The thing people always worry about, furnishing, isn't your cost at all. In the partnership model, the landlord furnishes the property themselves. We simply show them what the property needs to maximize its revenue. Then they pay for it. And that makes complete sense for two reasons. Well, number one, it's their property. And number two, they're earning extra revenue from it. So they're investing in their own asset. So furnishing, the thing most people assume is a huge upfront cost, comes off your list entirely. So let me sum it up in plain English. If you really want to start this business, the honest numbers are this: around £740 to be fully set up and compliant. And that's regardless of whether you're buying, renting, or doing the partnership model. But under £1,000 to get the business properly off the ground for the partnership model. Compare that to £67,500 just for a deposit to buy, or the £4,000 to £8,000 if you go on the arbitrage route and you take on that rent risk. If the number in your head was the thing stopping you, now you can see it was wrong. Now, I want to leave you with the thing I genuinely believe after years of doing this. The real question was never, how much money do I need? The real question is, what am I willing to do? Because if you're willing to build the knowledge and become the person who can actually operate this business, you will almost always find a way. You can find landlords who have the assets. You can structure deals that don't need your savings. You can start lean and then grow. I started with bad credit and no money to do the traditional rent to rent, but the money wasn't the thing that got me started. The knowledge was. Once I understood the partnership model deeply enough to explain it to a landlord, it became a complete no-brainer for them to want to work with me. So if you've been waiting until you've saved up some magic number before you start, I want to free you from that today. You don't need the money you think you do. You need the knowledge and you need the willingness to actually go and use it. So here's your next step. Download my free 30-day Airbnb launch plan. It shows you exactly how to launch your first property without owning it and without a big lump sum of cash. 5 steps, week by week, including how to structure your first deal. It's free. The link is in the description below. Just go and get it. And if this changed how you think about the money side of starting an Airbnb business, then be sure to subscribe. Click that button right now. I put out videos every single week for UK people building a real Airbnb business without the big budget everyone assumes you need. Onwards and upwards, and I'll see you on the next one.